On my first international business trip, I was sitting in the airport lounge, trying to look busy on my old laptop, when a woman walked in like the floor had been designed just for her. Impeccably tailored blazer, no flashy logos screaming status, but everything about her radiated power. She ordered coffee in French, opened a book on corporate mergers, and completely tuned out the noise around her. It wasn't arrogance. It was focus. She was operating on a different rhythm, a different layer of reality. At that moment, I realized, real wealth isn't about how much you have in your bank account. It's about how you move through the world. And the women who truly master this art follow invisible, silent, but decisive patterns. It was only after spending time with some of them, entrepreneurs, heiresses, self-made millionaires, that I started to notice the habits no one talks about. They're not in online courses or motivational posts, but they're there behind every yes they give, every step they refuse to take. Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 habits every wealthy woman has that no one ever told you about. Habit 1. She protects her energy like it's an investment. Because it is, I used to say yes to everything. Yes to coffee with coworkers who only gossiped. Yes to meetings that could have been emails. Yes to that friend who called every Sunday just to complain about Monday. The truth? I said yes because I was afraid of seeming rude, disinterested, ungrateful. Until one day, in the middle of a business lunch, my body sent a message. A migraine so intense I had to leave mid-conversation, wearing sunglasses, feeling like I was fleeing a crime scene. The woman I was having lunch with, who owns a company with branches in 3 countries, texted me later that day. She wrote just this: "You need to start protecting your energy the way you protect your money." It took a while, but I got what she meant. Wealthy women have a rare skill. They know how to filter what enters their attention field. While many people waste energy trying to please, respond, justify, they select what's worth their time, like they're choosing where to invest millions. And this isn't arrogance. It's clarity of purpose. When you're not clear on what you want, any distraction feels urgent. And that's when your energy starts draining through 1,000 micro-decisions, pointless conversations, meetings that feed egos more than results. The wealthy woman has learned, sometimes the hard way, that energy is her most precious asset. Without it, there's no vision, no strategy, no creativity, and definitely no presence. She learns to say no without explaining. She schedules time to think, rest, and make calm decisions. She doesn't reply to messages outside her hours, doesn't answer unknown numbers, and doesn't attend events just because everyone's going. It might sound small, but it changes everything. Every avoided distraction is space opened for important decisions. Every unnecessary conversation skipped is more focused to plan what matters. I remember an exercise I started doing. For a week, I wrote down everything that drained my energy. A call, a notification, a passive-aggressive message. At the end of the week, I made a cut list. Turned off notifications for 6 apps. Muted group chats. And most importantly, I started responding only when I had energy to spare, not when someone demanded an instant reply. The result? I slept better, worked more fluidly, and for the first time, I finished a personal project I had been putting off for months. Not because I gained more time, but because I gained mental space. A wealthy woman isn't constantly gasping for air. She builds a routine that respects her internal rhythm. She knows she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone, and because of that, she doesn't exhaust herself trying to keep every door open. This habit might seem simple, even obvious, but it takes courage, because saying no makes people uncomfortable. It causes friction. It pushes away those who are only there for your time, not your value. But it also clears the path for what truly matters. Energy is like credit. The more you spend without control, the more limited you feel. And the more you protect it, the more freedom you have to choose what truly deserves your attention. If there's one habit that changes everything, from your mood to your bank account, it's this one. Habit 2. She dresses like she's already made it, because she's already decided she will. Before I had money in the bank, I already walked like I did. And no, I'm not talking about expensive bags or designer clothes. I'm talking about posture, intention, and a conscious choice to convey value before even saying a word. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was invited to a corporate event as a guest of a friend who worked at a big company. I almost didn't go. I was tired, didn't have anything new to wear, felt smaller than those high-ranking people. But I went. I chose the best-kept outfit I had. Tailored pants, a crisp white shirt, mid-heels. No famous brands. But everything sent a message. I respect myself. When I arrived, I saw people in designer suits and others dressed way too casually. But one woman in particular caught my attention. She wore a simple black dress, her hair was tied back, no heavy makeup. And still, it was impossible not to notice her. The way she walked, the way she greeted people, the way she listened, everything about her said I belong here. And maybe I built this place. By the end of the night, I found out She was the owner of the company hosting the event. That flipped a switch in my head. The wealthy woman decides she already is before the world gives her the title, and it starts with the image she builds of herself. Not to please others, but to remind herself every day of who she's becoming. She doesn't dress to look rich. She dresses to remember she has value, even when the world hasn't caught up to that yet. And it's not about showing off. It's about consistency. Consistency in the details, clean clothes, upright posture, confident speech. She shows up with intention, because she knows no one bets on someone who doesn't believe in themselves. This habit changes more than just the way you dress. It changes how you see yourself. When I started dressing up even to work from home, something interesting happened. My productivity increased. My emails got sharper. My meetings more efficient. I spoke more clearly, made decisions more confidently. Your external image isn't an act. It's an extension of your identity. And when that identity is treated with care, the world responds. It's not about buying expensive clothes. It's about choosing clothes that align with the woman you want to become, not the one exhaustion is trying to make you settle for. The wealthy woman gets this. She wears what communicates presence, not what's trending. And above all, she never apologizes for taking up space, because she's not waiting for approval. She's already decided she's worthy. And you know what? The world responds better to someone who's already made up her mind. Habit 3. She chooses who she spends time with, even if it means walking alone for a while. The day I stopped accepting invitations out of politeness was the day my social life became strangely quiet and incredibly lighter. I had a longtime friend who had been around for years. We met weekly, shared secrets, and also the same old complaints. Money was never enough, men were all the same, life was unfair. The conversation never changed, just the setting. One day, I walked away from one of those meetups feeling something I knew all too well, drained. But this time, instead of ignoring it, I asked myself, what do I gain from staying close to someone who doesn't want to grow? It hurt to think about, but it hurt even more to admit the answer was nothing. That was the moment I realized. Holding on to relationships out of loyalty to the past is a form of self-sabotage. Wealthy women don't keep ties out of inertia. They choose their circles with precision, not for status, but for alignment in mindset. And sometimes, that means spending some time alone until they find those who vibrate at the same frequency. This habit is quiet. No one posts on Instagram that they've ended a friendship, but it shows in the results. The conversations evolve, the topics grow, the problems stop being the same old ones. The wealthy woman understands that you're shaped by the people you spend time with, not just in taste or vocabulary, but in your ambitions, your decisions, and especially the limits you start accepting as normal. She chooses to be around problem solvers, not complainers. People who dream big but also act big. People who aren't threatened by her ambition, because they have their own. I remember the first networking event I went to alone. I felt out of place. Like everyone else, there was a level above me. But even feeling uncomfortable, I stayed. I listened more than I spoke, took notes on names, stories, ideas, and walked out with 2 contacts who later became valuable partners. If I had chosen the old comfort of pointless meetups, I'd probably still be having the same conversations with the same people at the same coffee shops. Your environment isn't just the place you're in. It's also who's standing next to you, and the wealthy woman guards that fiercely. She doesn't share plans with people who thrive on criticism. She doesn't explain herself to those who don't want to understand. And if she has to walk alone for a while, she does, because she knows exactly where she's going. If you feel alone right now because you've distanced yourself from certain friendships, understand this. It's not isolation. It's space. Space that needs to be created so new, more aligned connections can come in. The wealthy woman isn't in a rush to fill that space. She knows the wrong company can be costly, sometimes more costly than a bad investment. Habit 4. She doesn't ask for permission to grow. When I started changing my habits, people didn't hold back. What's all this for? You think you're better now? Since when did you become that person? And the worst part, it came mostly from people who claimed to support me. What no one tells you is that when a woman decides to truly grow, she makes others uncomfortable. Not because she's doing something wrong, but because she highlights how stuck they are. Let me share a quick story. At my old job, I asked to lead a project no one wanted. It was challenging, high visibility, and a real chance to show results. They told me it might not be the right time, that I should wait a bit longer, that there were more qualified people. That same day, I went to the bathroom, closed the stall door, and took a deep breath. Right there, in silence, I decided, I'm not going to wait for approval from people who've never been where I want to go. I took on the project, studied more than anyone else, pulled all-nighters, delivered ahead of schedule. In the end, I was called in by upper management to present the results. A few months later, I was promoted. If I had waited for validation, I would have missed the opportunity. The wealthy woman has a very clear pattern. She acts before getting permission. She doesn't wait for others to agree, understand, or authorize. She just does it. And afterward, the same people who doubted her ask how she pulled it off. This habit requires strength. Growth often means defying expectations, even the ones that were placed on you since childhood. They expected you to be sweet, quiet, not cause trouble, not shine too bright. The wealthy woman ignores that script. She understands that waiting for approval means living for other people's comfort. And when you live to keep others comfortable, guess who gets sacrificed? You. Growing hurts because it causes disconnection. It pulls you out of the normal group. And that group doesn't like it when someone rises without asking permission. But that's the price of freedom. The wealthy woman doesn't sabotage herself by shrinking her plans to fit the expectations of small minds. She prepares, positions herself, and takes the leap. If she makes a mistake, she adjusts. But she doesn't freeze. She doesn't apologize for wanting more. And that doesn't mean being impulsive. It means no longer seeking validation for every step. It means choosing what makes sense, not what pleases. Want to test this for yourself? Take that idea you've been postponing because it's not ready yet. No one supported it, or they'll think it's too much. Now imagine no one will judge you. Imagine you have full support. What would you do? Now the real question, why do you need so much permission from others to live what's already yours? The wealthy woman figured out the answer. She doesn't. She never did. Habit 5. She makes money work for her, even before she has a lot. The first time I heard someone say idle money is dead money, I laughed. Because at the time, the little I earned barely let me breathe, let alone invest. But the phrase kept echoing in my mind. A while later, on a business trip, I shared a taxi with a woman around 50, elegant, low-key, and visibly confident. We chatted a bit, and she told me she had been living off investment income for 12 years. Yes, I worked a lot, but I learned early that my effort alone wouldn't cut it. I needed to make my money work, even if it was just a little at first. When we got to the hotel, she gave me advice I've never forgotten. Every bit of money needs a purpose. If it's not working, it becomes a burden. That's when it clicked. Wealthy women don't see money just as a reward. They treat it like an employee. They learn sooner or later that saving is good, but growing it is essential. And they don't wait to make millions to start. They start with what they have, even if it's just 100 rays a month. But they do it with discipline and long-term vision. They don't buy on impulse. They don't chase investment trends just because everyone's doing it. They study, they ask questions, they seek reliable sources. They know it's not about speed, it's about consistency. When you start seeing every reel as a little seed, the way you spend changes. A wealthy woman thinks twice before trading time for instant pleasure. She asks herself, is this bringing me closer to freedom or pulling me away from it? And for her, freedom isn't extravagant luxury. It's the ability to choose, not to depend, to decide whether or not to work, and on what. It's having quality time, mental health, and the margin to say no without worrying about making it to the end of the month. Once, I ran a personal experiment. For 3 months, I decided that every leftover bit of money, even spare change, would be invested. I didn't know much, but I started with a simple app, invested in conservative funds, and learned as I went. The most interesting part? It wasn't the returns. It was the shift in mindset. I started feeling more proud watching my balance grow than buying something new. And that didn't make me live in scarcity. On the contrary, it gave me a kind of satisfaction no sale ever could, the feeling of building something that's mine. Wealthy women know money isn't the villain. It's not a hero either. It's just a tool. And the sooner you learn to use it wisely, the more autonomy you gain. The secret isn't how much you earn. It's what you do with what you earn. And yes, you can start small. What you can't do is keep ignoring the power of making your money work while you sleep. Habit 6. She turns routine into ritual and doesn't outsource her own care. When I started spending time around truly wealthy women, one thing caught my attention. It wasn't the car, the bag, or the last name. It was the way they cared for themselves, like one would care for a piece of art. There was no rush in their movements. Breakfast was served on porcelain, even if they were alone. Skincare was done with focus, like a silent pact with their body. Clothes were chosen with intention, even if the whole day was going to be spent at home. And I kept wondering, why does everything feel like a ritual, not just a task? The answer came during a quick conversation with one of these women on a weekend retreat. We were sitting in silence, sipping tea, when she said, I'm my most important project. The way I treat myself determines how the world treats me. I mentally noted it down immediately, and I've never forgotten it. A wealthy woman doesn't wait for the weekend to care for herself. She doesn't outsource that to a salon or a clinic. She's responsible for her own well-being, every day. And it goes far beyond appearance. It's how she organizes her schedule, how she manages her rest. She doesn't sleep because she's collapsed from exhaustion. She sleeps because she knows a rested mind performs better. She doesn't take care of herself just to feel pretty. She does it because she sees herself as a priority. I remember when I adopted my first self-care ritual. Nothing fancy. 30 minutes without my phone in the morning, tea with lemon, and writing 3 pages in a notebook before turning on my computer. At first, it felt silly. But in less than a week, my anxiety dropped. My decisions became quicker. My emails sharper. Because for the first time, my day didn't start in reaction mode. It started in presence mode. The wealthy woman understands that those who live in constant reaction live in someone else's chaos. That's why she structures her routine with intention. She sets her hours, creates breaks, reserves quiet moments, and most importantly, she honors the time she dedicates to herself. This doesn't require wealth. It requires awareness. You can start now. Set your table with care, even if you're eating alone. Choose your outfit as if you were meeting someone important, because you are yourself. Plan your week with what recharges you, not just what drains you. Don't wait for an expensive spa to care for your skin. Don't wait for the perfect relationship to start treating yourself with love. A wealthy woman acts as if she's already whole, because she knows that's the state where true value reveals itself. Self-care isn't vanity. It's a silent strategy. It's what separates the woman who sustains herself from the one who burns out trying to sustain everything. Habit 7. She plans the future as its owner, not its hostage. I once heard a phrase that stuck with me. If you don't know where you want to go, you'll accept any path, and usually pay dearly for it. For a long time, that was me. I was always busy, constantly doing something, but when someone asked where I saw myself in 5 years, I gave a vague answer. Oh, I just want to be doing well, you know? But doing well isn't a plan. It's a generic wish, and directionless wishes turn into frustration. Everything changed when I met a mentor, the no-nonsense kind. She looked at my resume, my routine, my plans, and said, "You work too hard for such small results. That's because you're living in improvisation mode, and a woman who lives in improvisation rarely builds freedom." It stung, but it was true. A wealthy woman doesn't live by chance. She has vision. She thinks big but moves in detail. She plans the future like writing a movie script, with a beginning, middle, and strategic twists. She knows what she wants to achieve, what she's willing to do for it, and most importantly, what she no longer negotiates. And we're not just talking about money. We're talking about lifestyle, values, how she wants to work, who she wants to relate to, where she wants to live, how she wants to feel every single day. She makes today's choices based on who she wants to be 10 years from now. Not out of urgency, but because she knows consistency is more powerful than luck. This habit starts small. A reading list, a clearer monthly budget, a schedule that respects priorities, not just urgencies. Little by little, the woman who seemed to be chasing everything starts walking with direction. And direction brings power. When I started applying this, one small change showed me the impact. I began scheduling meetings only 3 days a week. On the other 2, I blocked fixed hours to think about my business. In the first month, I felt less productive. By the second month, my revenue went up, because for the first time, I had space to build something instead of just reacting. The wealthy woman treats herself like the CEO of her life. She doesn't wait for the future to happen. She designs it. And even if things change along the way, she adjusts the route, but never forgets the destination. You don't need to have it all figured out, but you need to stop drifting through your days. Those who avoid planning end up constantly putting out fires. Those who take control build stability. And stability isn't boring. It's solid ground. It's what lets you dare, grow, and even fail without falling apart. No woman is born ready. Not rich, not strong, not invincible. They build themselves, habit by habit, choice by choice. The 7 habits you learned here aren't magic formulas. They're silent, almost invisible fundamentals that define who keeps growing and who keeps going in circles. And most importantly, you don't need to wait for anything or anyone to start applying them. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You just need to decide you're ready to treat yourself like someone who deserves more than exhaustion, improvisation, and scraps. Start with 1. The one that made you most uncomfortable. That's usually the one that needs the most work. A wealthy woman's life doesn't start when the money comes in. It starts when she decides to stop negotiating with whatever sabotages her greatness. If this video sparked something in you, leave a comment telling me which habit you're going to apply first. I'd love to know. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a good time. There's a lot more coming your way. With respect, clarity, and a touch of boldness, until next time.